Imagine you are one of those who are present there, and you know that now Kenya is our country, we are going to govern ourselves with all the celebrations that are going on there, the dancers, the music, you know, the colorful occasions, right? What are the feelings? You know, the joy, right? Sometimes the joy is so much that some people even end up shedding tears of joy, isn't it? That is, you know, we write a personal journal so that when we read it later, probably many years later, we can relive that event. In other words, the event presents itself like as if it is happening all over again. That one will not come out unless you are able to write your journal in a way that it appeals to all the senses. Are we together? So, when you are writing a journal, ensure that you do not just narrate the events. Don't just say this happened, this happened, this happened, and so on and so forth. That one you are not going to score. Number two, it is also important to note that when you are writing the journal, you do not just narrate. This one is a point to emphasize the first one. You don't just narrate, you don't just move from one event to the other, from one event to the other. Try and bring out the feelings that this event evoked in you as a person. Are we together? That now I want us to move on to social writing. Social writing, we said that this is the kind of writing that we normally do to our friends, people who are close to us. And we are going to start with notes of thanks. Notes of thanks. Probably at one time or the other, those who are dozing, can you please keep away? Yes, we are doing something very, very important, right? Note of thanks. Maybe you've ever written a note of thanks to a friend, right? You can imagine. Have you ever written one? Yes. What had happened so that you wrote one to your friend? Yes. Someone, she tells us that someone has brought her a birthday present. So, notes of thanks. We are saying that we normally write notes of thanks. There are very many instances that present themselves in our lives that we need to thank people for, right? So what we are saying is that we write these notes of thanks to people who, in one way or the other, have been helpful to us. It is very important. Sometimes it is important to say thank you for people who have been good to us. Probably people who have helped us, and this one reflects the kind of people we are. Human beings are social animals, right? If I find you in a problem, you find me in a problem, and I assist you to get out of that problem, right? Sometimes we forget to tell those people thank you. Yes. And you can imagine what will happen or what is likely to happen next time if I found you in a similar problem. Right? I'm just going to take a look at you and move on. This is the thankless lot. Right? Hata ukifanyia nini? This one. So sometimes we write notes of thanks to such people. And of course, that writing helps either people to continue being good to us or to others. We like being appreciated. When you do something good, you feel good also when you have been appreciated. What are some of the things that we need to note when we are writing notes of thanks? Number one, it is very important to be brief. I am saying this, and you should note this point very, very clearly, because that is the way the marking scheme is prepared. When the examiner takes your note of thanks, the first thing they are going to look at is your rank. So they'll ask, are you brief? Yes. So there is a mark for that. So if you write a whole page as a note of thanks, now you lose the marks for brevity. So be brief. Number two, you should confine yourself to expressing gratitude. You know, that is, after all, it's a thank you note. You are only writing to say how grateful you are. So confine yourself. Let that be the subject of your note. That is expressing gratitude, and avoid as much as possible to remind whoever you are thanking for unfulfilled obligations, right? In other words, don't thank them and at another instance you are telling them, but you know, I gave you my book and you never returned it to me. Now you are going out of something because you are not.
It's a whole list. But we do not complain about that list because, as we have said, these are skills, this is knowledge we shall require beyond high school, and that is why it is important. So, what is expected of us? What do we need to know? The first thing that the examiner does is really to just mark on the format. Is everything in its right? Yes. Are the addresses where they're supposed to be? Is the salutation where it's supposed to be? Is the closing tag where it's supposed to be before we go to the contents of that answer? Alright? So that is what I'm saying. We need the knowledge of formats or the layout of the different kinds of writings that we are supposed to write for our paper and in our own lives. Creativity. We are all excited at the thought of a trip, isn't it? Everybody loves a trip, even I do. The thought of going out there, a different environment is exciting, isn't it? Are we able to generate that kind of creativity in the writing that is expected of us? Are we able to imagine beyond the fact that we are students, beyond the fact that we are in an examination room, and bring in other factors from out there? Are we aware of what society expects of us? That by the time we write such a letter, whoever is receiving will have certain expectations of you as the writer. Do we know these things? Are we able to show the examiner that indeed we are conversant? We have been part of humanity. Can we communicate? And communicating is not just about speaking words. You're writing. What are you writing? What words are you using? What phrases are you using? What manner of sentences in your writing? If I pick your piece of writing, I am delighted. Somebody walking in and finding me reading something you've written, if there's a smile on my face, it will mean I am happy with what I am. And therefore you can be sure, if it is your piece of writing, you're doing what? You are communicating, isn't it? Because the recipient is responding to the written word. Not yourself, but to the written word. It's written as if you are standing right there and telling me in the most pleasant voice, in the most pleasant, courteous manner, exactly what you require of me. Are we able to communicate in that way in our own writing? Do we have the requisite vocabulary to do that? Or are we fumbling and using words that should not be in that kind of writing? That is very, very important. Did we remember to punctuate? Did we remember to end our sentences? Or is it one long sentence from top to bottom because there is no punctuation? That can be very, very taxing. That's the kind of writing you find me frowning if you walk into a room. I'll be asking myself, what is this girl saying, for heaven's sake? Because it may look like English, but there is no